How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Elvira in Horrorland. This is issue 1, so it's a brand new plot arc, and this features writing by David Avallone and art by Sylvia Califone. Now, Elvira is this horror host. You know, they would play old-timey horror and sci-fi movies on TV. They'd usually be on the cheesier side, and she would introduce the movie as well as every now and then pop in and make some funny comment. And they, of course, made movies about her, giving her more of a character outside the hosting position. But they've had comics about her for a while, and I hadn't really read any of the comics before. I had seen them around, and I thought maybe I should check them out. But with this one, I saw it was a new issue 1, a beginning of a new plot arc. I thought it might be a good place to jump on. But what really got me is the Psycho parody. I'm obviously a huge horror geek, and to see them parodying a movie that directly, I was intrigued, and plus I flipped it to the back and I saw what movie they were going to be talking about next time as well, and I'm like, okay, I can't pass that up, I have to check it out, and it's pretty interesting. Now, this is a sequel to the last Elvira comic run, is like Elvira meets Vincent Price. But if you haven't read that, there is a nice catch-up page here, and all you really need to know is that Elvira is stuck in the movie dimension, and she needs a magical remote to get her out, so you don't really need to catch up on a huge amount of story. Just know she's in movies, and she's looking for the remote, and the remote's always going to be hidden at some place regarding the climax. But this is actually a really fun and clever book. You know, humor doesn't always translate into comics because you don't have the timing, but they really give Elvira some really nice sarcastic remarks, and I do love how she'll turn and talk directly to the camera like she did when she was a host, and she's very self-aware, and this whole book is pretty meta because she literally knows she's in a movie, and the characters in the movie are kind of thrown off when she comes in and messes with stuff, and she goes off script, and it's really fun to see her interact with these characters that know they're supposed to be doing something else, and they just get really upset. It's pretty cool, and they do some fun stuff towards the end. A few characters I really like to see showed up that I didn't suspect would. So, some pretty fun moments, and yeah, I really did like this issue. If you guys ever saw, there was this movie, Mimsis, Night of the Living Dead, where some characters after a party wake up and find themselves in Night of the Living Dead. It kind of reminded me of that concept, although that movie didn't play with it as hard as I wanted it to. I wanted it to be more self-referential and more self-aware, and I feel like this does it way better. So, yeah, a Psycho parody, I couldn't pass that up, and I was really surprised, and I love how Elvira interacted with the world and how the world didn't know what to make of her. Really fun, clever stuff. Without further ado, I'm going to switch to the close-up camera. We can take a better look at the artwork. I'll talk about the story in a little bit more detail. No major spoilers. I'll avoid the end, but I do want to show you guys a little more of what happens. So, without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are in the castle, and let's take a closer look at this comic, beginning with the cover there, the Elvira in Horrorland cover, really classic text, and then you get the famous shower scene from Psycho, but of course, she notices him. Ever heard of knocking? These, I guess all the covers are going to have her telling a fun little joke, but you do get the mother's reflection in the knife there. Overall, a pretty good, striking cover. You can tell the movie right away, and it really gets you to go, oh, hey, a Psycho parody, I should check this out. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the story and the art. No major spoilers, and there are some fun characters that show up towards the end that I wasn't expecting, but were a really pleasant surprise. But I will leave those for you guys to find out when you read the book. But on this page, the back of the cover, we can see a previously on, which is very helpful, and it talks about how Elvira was with the ghost of Vincent Price, and she went into the movie universe, but something went wrong, and she couldn't make it out at the end, so now she's stuck in the horror movie world, and she's looking for a remote. Not too much to keep up with. Really, you can jump right in here if you read this, and in fact, on the next page, you know, Elvira is very much into breaking the fourth wall, and she goes, "You did read the inside front cover, right? Okay." and she talks, and she's like, "Yeah, I noticed the black and white, and I was worried someone had fired my colorist, but who would do that to poor Walter?" And you flip over here, and the colorist is indeed Walter. So yeah, she's breaking the fourth wall. She knows she's in a comic book, and she's like, "I can tell by the looks on your faces that the answer to where I am is right behind me, right?" And there you get Bloch's Motel. They do great work in getting the likeness of the characters and the sets and really the whole tone of Psycho right. But I guess legally, I mean, even though parody laws, you can get pretty close, but I guess they couldn't get the names. So this is Bloch's Motel instead of the Bates Motel. Robert Bloch would be the guy that wrote the novel for Psycho, so even though they changed it, it's still a reference to the original thing. And they do change the names. Norman Bates is Norbert, so close enough. Kind of feels like a joke, and like, you know, Marion Crane is Helen Gull, so Crane, Gull, you know, different birds, right? So yeah, they did have to change the names, but other than that, it's pretty close. So there's the title card, Bloch Party, and it's done in the same style as the Psycho title card, and she says that she needs to find the remote, and it's going to probably be with Mother because that's the climax of this movie. By the way, if you haven't seen Psycho yet, major spoilers for Psycho, so go watch that first. Definitely would recommend it. It's a classic horror film. But she also gets these jokes. You know, Elvira has lots of funny little quips, and she's like, "Why did I have to start here at the motel? Why couldn't I have started the beginning with that hunky guy?" You know, so she of course sees Mother there in the window, and she's going to go and talk to Norman. And I do love this conversation that they have. It's really funny, and you get the sense of what this world is like. And she's like, "Yeah, you weren't expecting me. You are expecting a blonde. Let me guess, you're going to tell me it's a dirty night and that there are 12 cabins and 12 vacancies?" And he's like, "Whoa, you're making my head hurt," because she's literally stepping on his lines. You know, "No sense dwelling on our losses." And he's like, "Stop that. You're making my head hurt. That's my line. What are you doing?" You know, so they're kind of like half aware that they're in a movie. Like, you know, they don't really know, but when you start going off the course, they're like, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" So yeah, I do really love the way that they treat the characters in this world, and really good, you know, getting the atmosphere here. So he almost gives her room 1, but he's like, "No, wait, you're not the right person. You get room 2. And while he's going around, she's like, "I gotta sneak into the basement and go see Mother." And she hears a conversation. "No, Mother, she did things wrong. I was trying to stay on script," and stuff like that. But then she hears the car honking sound effect, and she realizes that Marion Crane, Janet Leigh, is coming to her hotel, and she says, "Oh, I could just leave her. She's not real. These are just movie characters. This is how it's supposed to happen." But she can't convince herself to do that, and here's you get this really interesting part where she's going to go back and interfere and try to save Marion Crane there. Obviously, like I said, they changed her name, but I keep referring to her by the regular... Anyway, look at, I love all these little panels. I love the black and white, and I really love that they do really get the atmosphere for Psycho down. It's so iconic, and I really do love this. You know, like, look in the background here, you can see the little birds and stuff. It's really cool. But anyway, Elvira is going to go and interrupt Marion there and try to explain, you know, kind of spoil a bit about Norman and try to help her out. And I'll leave you guys off with the beginning part of the famous shower scene. And yeah, overall, I really do like it. You know, they keep so much elements, you know, the artwork and the style. They keep a lot of that from Psycho, where it really does feel like an official Psycho book. But then you have Elvira in there, stepping on people's lines, throwing them off script, and towards the end, she's like, I gotta go and try to save her. I can't just be worried about my remote, I gotta save Marion. And gonna really throw things off the rails. And, you know, like I said, crazy, wacky stuff happens. And there was a really funny cameo towards the end that I'm like, okay, him showing up is pretty clever. So I do love the way the world works. It's definitely Psycho, but with this fun twist on its head. And I'm really looking forward to next time. You guys can look up the covers, you can see what's next, but the next movie is another one of my favorites. They're really going for the gold with these first two movie choices. I don't know what the others are going to be yet, but if these two are any indication, we're looking at some classic horror, and I really am excited for what's coming up in this line, and, you know, what they could do, how they could mess with it. It's really, really fun and clever stuff, and I do really like the artwork. Like I said, it mimics that, but it's also got this sharp, angular, modern comic style. It's all pretty cool. Overall, like I said, I hadn't read an Elvira book before, but this was a pleasant surprise. Maybe I should go and try to find the trades of some of her past books, you know. I'd be curious to read the one before this, because that's where she's talking to the ghost of Vincent Price, apparently. Overall, a really fun time. Definitely recommend Psycho fans, classic horror fans. It looks like we're going to get some fun parodies coming up. And yeah, I hadn't heard anything about this before. I just saw it on the shelves and I'm like, I gotta check this out, and I really am glad I did. This is really fun. Elvira messing up a classic horror movie. Great stuff. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my horror comics playlist. If you want to see me talk about more horror comics, I've talked about anthology horror. I've talked about a bunch of Cullen Bunn books recently. If you want to see me talk about more horror, you can click right there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.